What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast. I'm Bo. That is Brant. Coming at you live on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network, live on the YouTube channel presented by the Fantasy Holics. Brant, this is an episode that has become a staple on the show. We kind of talked about it last week about how this is a show we started out doing live when we were doing these casts in my garage every week. Before we got the technology and both of us had all the accessories and everything else to do this remotely. And even for that matter, the internet speed to do them remotely. But, we've come a long way since that time. We've gained a pound or three. And, honestly, I'm super excited to get into it. It's the Fatboyz Hot Takes episode. But before we do, Brant, they may not be worth mentioning for fantasy, but we have to talk about them. There's a couple of real-life trades made in the NFL today involving wide receivers. The first being the Chiefs trading Sky Moore to the 49ers Sky Moore and a 7th-round pick to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick. And then the Broncos also sent Devon Vele, who was like the 27-year-old rookie last year, to the Saints for a 4th round and a 7th round. Sean Payton taking advantage of his former team. That is not right. The Saints their draft capital is going to be too good to be given up.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Vele trade, I think that's maybe dynasty relevant, maybe lower in the redrafts, or not redrafts, in the startup leagues. Maybe take a shot at Vele. That Sky Moore, though, that one's a little interesting to me. He went from the Chiefs to the Niners, who Brandon Ayuk's out. Jennings wants a new contract, plus I think his calf. Ricky Pearsall's the true number one right now, it sounds like, and George Kittle. And then there's just question marks galore. Sky Moore could easily work his way into being the number 2 wideout there in San Fran. So that is actually one to keep an eye on for redraft leagues too, if you have a deeper bench. Obviously, if you have a 5-person bench, I probably am not stashing Sky Moore on my bench, but it's a name to keep an eye on. As for Vele, I think that's a dynasty stash if you have a deeper dynasty league.
Yeah, I mean, that wide receiving core outside of Chris Olave is wide open in New Orleans, so one never knows. I mean, we had Mason Tipton showing relevancy last year, Rashid Shaheed before his injury. You just never know in that offense. I will say on the 49ers front, Ayuk, the reports now are anywhere from week 2-3 to week 6 that he could be back. Ricky Pearsall's there still and semi-healthy at this point. Juwan Jennings may get a contract done before the season starts. He may not, but I don't know as though he'll hold out. And even so, I think Sky Moore is going to take 3-4 weeks to get up to speed. So by the time he's up to speed, I would assume Ayuk would be knocking on the doorstep of coming in. So we'll see whether Sky Moore can have some relevancy. I mean, we all waited for him to bust out in Kansas City, and all he did was bust. But, nonetheless. All right, Brent. So the way this show works, you and I bring 3 hot takes apiece to this season for guys that we think are going to explode or bust, or just stuff that our gut is telling us. And we both have rather large guts, so I would say that makes us area expertise in the gut department. And what we do is we just start with the ones that are the low simmer all the way to the lids burning off and busting out, and people are going to call us crazy. But we do these, we keep these, and we talk about them kind of at the year end and see how close we got.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rip this Band-Aid right off, or let's throw our spice on our chicken here and get a little spicy here. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Rashad Bateman becomes the number 1 there, outscores Zay Flowers, and becomes the number 1 wide receiver in Baltimore this year. He started to take that step forward at the end of the year. He started to have some good games. He started to show his trustworthy. I was huge on this guy coming out, and then I hated his landing spot because, well, we've gone over it multiple times that we were never huge Lamar fans, but I think this year he goes full force. I think he becomes the number 1 target in Baltimore, outside of Derrick Henry getting touches and Lamar Jackson's rushes. I think he becomes the number 1 target. I think he outscores Zay Flowers this year.
All right, that's definitely an interesting one. Part of me hopes you're wrong. You and I did go out and trade for Zay Flowers last year in a co-owned league we're in. And I like Zay Flowers. I actually went and traded for Lamar Jackson this year. So in our home dynasty league. So we'll see. Definitely was interesting seeing the news come out today that he left camp with a right wrist injury. So we'll see how that affects him moving forward. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That deep ball got to be a really solid connection last year between Lamar and Rashad Bateman. And I don't personally know any bigger Rashad Bateman fans than you, at least what you used to be, Brant. I know you finally moved him and another longtime admirer or a guy you admired in Jacoby Myers last year in a trade in our home dynasty league. But you were also those guys from day one that they entered the league, that day one you could get them. So, I definitely will let you take your victory lap if that ends up happening in that one there, because it'll be a long time coming. So speaking of guys that we both admired for a long time, or you admired Bateman, I admired this guy for a long time. I don't think you're going to feel this way about this one. I think this is when you're going to be completely off board with me, but this is my least spicy take, Brant, first of all. So I believe in my heart of hearts, in my gut of guts, Deebo Samuel finishes the season as a wide receiver top 24, Brant. I think with the news coming out that the Commanders are shopping Brian Robinson, everybody's running out getting Bill. Other people are running out getting Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez, I think, is the most waiver picked up player on Sleeper this week, number one trending player. Everybody's scrambling. I've even seen some trades go down in the last 24 hours in Dynasty Daddy where people are paying a decent premium for Austin Eckler. One of the first carries of the game was an end around to Deebo Samuel last week for 14 yards. And then right now we don't know whether Terry McLaurin's going to play or what that's going to look like if he does. How long is he going to be on the field? How long is he going to be fighting for a contract? I think Deebo Samuel is a guy that if he stays healthy, he's gimmicky enough, he's fun enough that the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn is a guy that I think lets his offensive staff find ways to be extremely creative. I think we saw a lot of that last year with this offense, and they massively upgraded the weapons for Jaden Daniels last year. I think this is a situation where you see Deebo Samuel get 5 to 7 carries a game, especially if they let Brian Robinson go. I think there will be, 3 or 4 guys get carries out of that backfield, but I think Deebo Samuel will get 5 to 7 carries a game and another 5 to 7 targets each week. And I think that just it translates to immaculate fantasy value for him. And I think you're talking 7-8 touchdowns this year from him. And if that happens, he's a top 24 wide receiver.
I will 100% be on board with that if Terry does get moved. I'm pretty sure Brian Robinson is going to be moved. That is all over where he goes, what they get. He may just get cut off the 53-man roster. Who knows? But if Terry really sits out or moves on, I 100% will be on board with him being a top 25 wideout, top 24. All right, so my number 2, you may hate me, but you're also going to love me because you love this guy too. Caleb Johnson finishes as the number 1 rookie running back in 2025 with 263 vacated touches in a Pittsburgh Steelers offense that loves to run, plus 48 targets, all vacated with Najee moving on. I think Caleb Johnson has a wide open path. We've seen his breakaway speed. He's able to take, some good rushes. I think sitting behind this line, Aaron Rodgers, who we know loves to dump it off. We saw him do it for so many years with Aaron Jones. I think the door is wide open for Caleb Johnson to be the best rookie running back in 2025. I'm not saying he's the best dynasty value, but I do think the door is wide open for him to take over that number 1 role.
Yeah, obviously, I said coming into the draft process, I thought he was my 1B in this class. So much so, Brant, that I actually pulled off a pretty massive trade to acquire Caleb Johnson, and not my home league, but my other, probably my second favorite league is with another buddy of ours. I sent James Conner and Ladd McConkey yesterday for Caleb Johnson and Scary Terry, who scares the hell out of me right now. So it was mainly to acquire Caleb Johnson. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think early Jaylen Warren's going to be on the field for a lot of plays because his pass blocking is very, very good. Until Caleb Johnson catches up to speed. What I'm reading in camp is he's not quite there on the pass blocking yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen between now and the first couple of weeks. And I think you're going to see enough of the skill difference between Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren that I do think he takes over early enough. It wouldn't surprise me because, listen, outside of Genty, you've got Judkins, who doesn't have a contract yet, and you've got Travion Henderson that a lot of people love, but we'll talk about that one in just a few minutes. But really just has to beat out Genty, and that Raiders offensive line, I think, is a massive question mark this year. So we will see. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Okay.
I'm actually at the running back position as well for number 2. I think this is the one out of my 3 that I think you're going to be completely on board with. For me, that's Braylon Allen, and ends up the RB1 in New York Jets, in the New York Jets offense. And people are forgetting about Breece Hall next year, Brant. I think Braylon Allen was very young coming out of college. Still, I believe if he would have been in this year's draft class, would have been the youngest player in this year's draft class at the running back position as well. I believe I saw that. But he's been getting a lot of camp hype this year. There's been a lot of people talking about, Breece Hall can't read a hole, can't see a hole in the offensive line, can't hit a hole, too indecisive. And then ultimately you've got Justin Fields, who's going to run the ball a lot. I just think the RPO game with Justin Fields, which you've been very excited about, that RPO game in New York, is going to be better with a big bruising back like Braylon Allen than it will be with a nimble guy who maybe is a little too indecisive in Breece Hall. Because let's be honest, if you've got somebody dancing in the backfield and the quarterback's the one really with the ball, you're going to see that before dude gets to the line of scrimmage. Braylon Allen's hitting the hole hard. I mean, he's running through a brick wall every time he touches the ball. And I think his skills will be on display. I think they start the season out as a 40 to 30-30 share, with Breece Hall being the 40 and Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen is the 30s apiece. And I think ultimately Braylon Allen's going to show what he has, and very quickly he's going to supplant Breece Hall. And next year, a lot of people in Dynasty are going to be left holding the bag, because Breece Hall was at once upon a time arguably a number 1 overall pick in Dynasty startups. And I think that light is faded at this point for me, Brant. So that's my medium take.
So with your medium take, my gut, as we talk about gut reactions and hot takes on this episode, my gut was to leave Braylon out alone, because I thought you were going to go that route, because my first one that I came up with a couple days ago was Breece Hall gets traded midseason. Braylon Allen becomes a top 5 back for the rest of the season. But something in my head said, nah, Bo's going to do something with Allen, so I'm going to leave this one alone. So I'm glad I did not put this down. So yes, I am definitely on board with this.
We'll take a victory lap together. If he hits, we'll just run opposite directions and see if we can use our gravitational pulls to mess up the Earth's axis or something here.
Try to rewind time so we get more football.
There you go. Yep.
All right. So my number 3, my spicy take, my hot take. You're going to like this because I'm going to talk about one of your boys. You got the flag behind you right now. The 2023 running back draft class becomes a fantasy cheat code this year, as they finish as number 1, 2, and 3 with Bijan Robinson. I'm not going to put them in order. Bijan Robinson, Gibbs, and Chase Brown finish 1, 2, 3 this year. And I'm even going to put this because I got to get my little spice. I got to shoot my shot for my home team. Zach Charbonnet finishes inside the top 24.
Okay. I like the Charbonnet one a lot. I've been reading a lot of really good things about how honestly, Kenneth Walker's looked good from what I'm reading out of you guys' camp, but it sounds like Charbonnet's right there with him. I think that's definitely a possibility in that offense this year, Brand. I think, outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think the rest of the offense is kind of wide open. I wouldn't be shocked to see a lot of 2-man sets with both of them out there potentially this year, just for talent void purposes. So yeah, I like that take, honestly, a decent amount. I'm coming at you with one you're not going to like, Brant. I'm going to catch some crap for this one when this one gets out there and people start seeing Fatboy Bo had this to say, just like people really loved my DJ Moore take a few years ago. I've got a take down here that's going to make it seem like I'm lukewarm at best on Travion Henderson, Brant. Ramondre Stevenson is running back 1 in New England and finishes as a top 24 running back this season in PPR formats. Listen, I think Travion Henderson is going to be a good football player. I think Travion Henderson is going to be good for fantasy. However, volume is king. I think Travion Henderson is going to be the type of running back that gets somewhere between 10 to 18 touches a game. And it's like, hey, go do your thing with the ball. Go get us some points. Go get yourself some yards. But when you talk about the nitty-gritty, the long drives, the pounded out, it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson. He's still on the field. Ramondre Stevenson, there was it was almost cringy, but there was a video out recently of training camp of Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson together on the sidelines going, hey, a 50-50 workload doesn't sound that bad to me. Like saying we're cool with it, save our bodies, whatever. And I think that just means with a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, Brant, when he touches the ball, he's going to run angry as all get out. This is a guy that, honestly, you planted your flag on him way before I was even remotely interested in him coming out of college. This was a guy you were very, very high on, and I genuinely think that, now I'm not saying this is for dynasty, startups, I'm taking him over Travion Henderson, but for this season, and again, it's the least likely one I see happening, but I still think there's some value in it. Ramondre Stevenson is RB1 in New England at the end of the year and finishes as a top 24 back.
Okay, absolutely. I see Henderson being that Devon A-Chain role that we saw his rookie year. Getting those touches, and every touch seems like it's a touchdown almost. He's breaking a 20, 30-yard rush. So, yeah, he's going to be great for your fantasy. But like you said, can he hold up to that? He had to share the backfield in Ohio State. He's going to have to share it a little bit, at least even with everything coming out, we already know he's going to share it a little bit with Ramondre Stevenson. The season's not here, but Stevenson didn't play, but yet Henderson did play in these preseason games, and I get it. Get your rookies up to the speed. But yeah, I believe it. I think Stevenson will finish in the top 24. I think that split is going to be a 60-40 split. Maybe even, like I said, if it literally is the A-Chain role of A-Chain's rookie year where every touch is a burst, that split could end up 70-30, and those 30% could put both of these backs inside the top 24 by the end of the year.
All right. I'm a little shook. We didn't disagree on that one, but okay. I thought that was my spicy one that you were going to be staying away from as far as possible, but all right.
No, I think they're going to have to pound the ball a lot and control that clock if Drake May is going to do his thing. So, yeah, I do think that Stevenson's going to have huge value.
All right, so I'm going to say this really quick, Brant, because I think our hot takes, have been that. They've been hot. I think we'll catch some flack for some of these, which is good. So let's recap them 1 through 3 real quick. Go for it. Give me your 1 through 3, and then I'll hit mine.
My number 1 is Bateman outscores Zay Flowers and becomes the number one wide receiver in Baltimore. My number 2 is Caleb Johnson in 2025 is the number 1 rookie running back, finishes ahead of the rest of the rookies. And then my number 3, my spicy, least likely to happen, but still hot, and I think it could happen, is that 2023 draft class becomes a cheat code with Gibbs, Bijan, and Chase Brown finishing as number 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right. Quick recap on mine. Deebo Samuel finishes as a top 24 wide receiver this year. Braylon Allen ends up the RB1 in New York, and Ramondre Stevenson is the RB1 in New England and finishes as a top 24 back. All right. So that kind of takes us through that portion of the show. Now we are getting back. We're really, really close to the football being back on TV again. We're what, 14, 15 days out, something like that. We're getting really close. We're down to the nitty gritty. The Fantasy Holics are partnering again this season with Underdog Fantasy. Jay, I know you're watching. I just want to let you know I spent like a half an hour doing my best to figure out how to make the graphic work on the screen. The only way it worked was with a graphic where Brant and I found it that said the Fantasy Holics rookie mock draft. That wasn't going to work. So,
and it made us look thin.
Well, it made us look fat and small. There's no graphics this week. I am going to play our old Underdog promo video, and then we're going to talk about a couple of the season picks that Jay did send us to talk about on the show. So let's get into this video, and we'll talk about it for a minute, Brant. All right. So again, partnership with Underdog again this year for the Fantasy Holics. Make sure you jump on Underdog. It is one of the most user-friendly fantasy sports betting apps out there. It's a lot of fun. Brant and I do a live picks of the week every week during our live start sit on Sunday morning. So make sure you tune in with us. Throw a little change down on those, sprinkle it in there. Brant and I always put a little bit of our own scratch on there just to kind of see where we're at. So, all right, Brant, the first one Jay sent us, these are season projections, higher or lower. This one, the first one's going to be on Joe Burrow. So it's a two-parter here. Does Joe Burrow go higher or lower than 33.5 touchdowns?
Oh, I think he goes higher. I think that defense is so putrid that he's going to have to throw the ball, air it out. And with Chase Brown, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, I think he goes higher.
All right. There you go. You got the man behind the scenes that make these fat guys look somewhat presentable every week, saying he'll make something nice for us next week. We appreciate it, Jay. We always get great work out of you. So thank you for doing your part to make the Fat Boys look somewhat tolerable. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Brant. I think Burrow it could be in line for a big season this year. I will say this. The way that offensive line looked against Washington in the preseason last week when Burrow was out there was atrocious, man. So if he stays healthy all season, yeah, I think you're looking at 33.5 touchdowns. I think he'll be comfortably higher than that. Now, the one that I'm a little nervous about is the passing yards, Brant. He's got it at 4,199.5. So he'd have to get 4,200 to hit the higher for this one.
I think he flirts with 5,000 this year. So I'm taking the higher. Same reason. That defense is so putrid. Even if it has to be some quick games in order to, help the offensive line, I still think that Chase Brown can help out. Obviously, he's going to have to if he's going to finish as top 3 running back.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, he's got one of the best wide receivers in football, if not the best, depending on your opinion, and Jamar Chase. Probably the best number 2 wide receiver in football, and T. Higgins, again, depending on your thoughts. A very good pass catching back in Chase Brown. Mike Gesicki at tight end is serviceable, and I'm really excited to see how they use Noah Fant. Honestly, Brant, I thought, Noah Fant coming out of college, we thought maybe he was going to be something out of Iowa because Iowa tight ends always hit. And he kind of has just, Denver to Seattle and kind of bounced around in offenses that kind of rotated tight ends. So we'll see what he does on a very high-powered passing offense. It would be interesting to see how Fant can make himself work there. So I'm going to say higher as well on Burrow's passing yards.
Okay.
So that the second one he's got for us here is Isaiah Pacheco. So, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, Brant, higher or lower 4.5 rushing touchdowns, or I guess it's just total touchdowns for Pacheco this year, 4.5.
I'm going to go with higher than 4.5 total touchdowns. I don't think he gets higher than that with just rushing. I will take the higher than in total touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, so it's tough, right? Because this is a loaded running back. I say loaded. It's not a loaded running back room at all. There's just a lot of different guys there. I still think Pacheco is probably the clearer, best one at this point. But what's not to say an hour after this cast is recorded that Brian Robinson doesn't end up in Kansas City the way trades are happening, right? I mean, the Chiefs just did get a little different ammo to trade with after their move with the 49ers. So one never knows. So I'm going to go out and say I'm going to go lower on Pacheco. I think you're going to see just like a total RB by committee. I think you're going to see a lot of different hands touch the ball out of the backfield there this year, including Xavier Worthy. So I'm going to go lower than 4.5. And so I'm thinking I know the answer for this one already, but they've got his rushing yards projected at 724.5. You were kind of saying if it was 4.5 rushing touchdowns, you're going to go lower. I assume you're going to go lower on his rush yards then.
I'm taking lower on that. I do believe it's a committee. I do think that he is the guy that they're going to lean on and for the goal line rushing. That's why I do think, or the goal line work, even if it's that little flip pass, that's still not a rush. But yeah, so I'm going to take lower on those 724 yards.
Yeah, and so this is exactly why Underdog is so much fun. I think 724 is a really, really good number. Honestly, that's only 10 games of just over 70 yards, which I think is possible for Pacheco. So I'm gonna say he goes over on the rushing yards, but under on the touchdowns, which is a total contradictory statement. But I'm gonna say it. I think maybe Carson Steele, somebody else ends up being the goal line, the final touch guy on some of these drives. So I'm gonna go with the over on the rush yards for Pacheco, or higher on the yards and lower on the touchdowns. So
Okay.
and again, I kind of mentioned it, Brant, every Sunday when we do our live start sits, we both have like 5 picks of the week for underdog that we are putting our own hard-earned money on to, have a little extra fun watching these games on Sunday with you guys. It is a staple we talk about along with, the meal of the week every Sunday, but that is something we always look forward to talking about and putting out there as well.
I will say, for some of you degenerates, you can even do it on the preseason games. I may or may not have flirted with a few of them, just having a little fun on weeks 2. But yeah, you can definitely get on there and enjoy week 4 of the preseason. It's fun to see some of the yards. You see some of the big running backs with like 12 and a half higher or lower yards. It's just fun to mess around on there a little bit. Obviously, I'm not throwing stacks on it, but I am having a little fun with it.
I wouldn't be shocked if you were throwing some on there. I've known you to gamble on, Korean sports happening at 3 a.m. So
hey, sometimes you got to put your change on stuff.
There you go. Jay said I made over 7,000 on underdog last year, mostly on in-game tickets. So there you go, guys. There's living proof that it happens. We're going to assume that in Canada they pay taxes on this just the same way we do in America, and hopefully Jay is not getting himself in trouble with the tax man showing us how big his paycheck was from underdog last year. That is a great year, Jay. Hopefully for you double that this season. So I won't go talk about my lifetime numbers on some of these betting sites because they're not nearly as good as some people, because I bet with my heart, not my brain sometimes. So and usually I put like a 10-leg parlay on my Falcons every week that never hits. So because usually I pick them to win. So you can't do that. But
that one day it hits, you will break even.
the day that it would hit, I don't put it in. So again, I think that kind of wraps it up for this week, guys. We are getting awful close to those live start sits on Sunday. Maybe next week we'll come at you with nothing but an underdog promo where we talk about some season-long plays that we're smashing before the season actually kicks off.
We can also talk about some of those, the week 1's on there. We can get into some of those and try to jump on that week 1 a little bit early because those numbers will change throughout the week. So get in early sometimes.
All right, Brent, sounds like we're throwing a gauntlet, Jay. It sounds like we're challenging you to come up with some really cool graphics for us for next week's show. We're going to do a nothing but an underdog show next week. So
sounds good. Sounds good. So I think that wraps it up. Once again, make sure you guys join us every Sunday morning for our start sits. And as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.